YouTube, especially about the Vietnam War, I have been seeing a wave of videos, much like the Rambo films and their derivatives, glorifying American soldiers and presenting a distorted version of reality. But the truth is undeniable. Vietnam won the war, and American military fled in fear in 1975. Beyond simply explaining this reality, I want to introduce you to one of the true architects behind that war's outcome, Pham Xuan An. This mini documentary is the story of this hero. One side of Laos was burning so intensely that even the sky looked like it was collapsing into fire. On another front, villages were being wiped out in massacres that barely made it onto official records. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was not just a road, it was one of the most extreme military engineering systems in history. It revealed the organizational capacity of the Vietnamese side. In the south, in the Kamau region, water guerrillas fought inside canals and swamps, moving like shadows under mud and water. They weakened the American Navy through constant attrition. A guerrilla interviewed admitted he didn't even know how many American soldiers he killed or how many tunnel rats he neutralized.
Name?
My name Juan.
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 Tolga. Nice to meet you, Juan.
Nghe tôi nói là
Dạ.
tại vì sợ chim hồn
Dạ.
hai bạn.
Very interesting.
Forest and tunnel.
Tunnels.
Tunnel.
Tunnels? How can the tunnel?
Tunnel.
Water? How can they make tunnel? Water?
Tức là dưới đây nó có hầm.
Dạ.
Su gerillalarının, deniz gerillalarının geçtiği kanalların darlığına bakar mısınız? Tunnel rats were soldiers sent by the American Army into underground tunnel systems built like buried resistance cities. A significant part of these soldiers came from working class backgrounds. The war was structurally carried by working class bodies. But wars are not always decided by armies. Sometimes they are shaped by a single mind. That mind was Pham Xuan An, codename X6. This is not a simple espionage story. It is a system built between two realities that were never meant to overlap. Year 1957, a young Vietnamese man is sent to the United States. He studies journalism at Orange Coast College in California. On the surface, it's education. That is the official version. In reality, it's a long-term intelligence preparation program. An does not just study journalism. He studies American society itself. How people think, how they obey, how they trust, how they break. He absorbs the American mindset as structured information.
Được sự viện trợ của
Year 1959, he returns to Vietnam. He begins working for Reuters and later Time magazine. These are not just jobs. They are access points. He enters American military and diplomatic environments as if he belongs there. Especially Military Assistance Command Vietnam, MACV. MACV is not just a command center, it is the operational brain of the entire US war effort in Vietnam.
Ngày 10 tháng 10 năm 1959, Pham Xuan An đặt chân xuống.
Every bombing decision, every operational plan, every intelligence assessment passes through it. And An moves in and out of it under a journalist identity as if it is routine. I repeat, this is not normal. This is not even rare. This is a structural intelligence anomaly. At the same time, he exists inside the South Vietnamese military structure, in enemy. He exists inside the North Vietnamese communist system. He is in contact with senior American officers and the CIA. He speaks with all sides. He is trusted by all sides, but he belongs to none of them. He serves North Vietnam and his own country. The question is not what he did. The question is when he became this. Archives leave little room for speculation. Year 1945, he is 17 years old. He joins the Viet Minh movement fighting against French colonial rule. This is not background, this is the origin. The Viet Minh later becomes the foundation of the Viet Cong. So, he is not a journalist who became a spy. He starts as resistance, as a communist.
Bạn với nhau thì trong tôi nhớ là Quỳnh sáng nè, tôi chở con đi chơi đi
Year 1953, he officially becomes a member of the Communist Party. This is the moment ideology becomes structure. He is no longer just aligned, he is embedded. At the same time, he interacts with South Vietnamese military structures and American systems. This creates an early dual existence. North Vietnam's long-term plan is already forming sent him to America, not education, infiltration. Year 1959 again. He returns with two identities layered on top of each other. Publicly, respected journalist, privately, intelligence officer for North Vietnam communists. His connection with Viet Cong is not direct, it's cellular. Information moves through couriers. Sometimes he doesn't even know who receives it. That is intentional. Knowledge is fragmented to prevent collapse under pressure. Year 1963, the Battle of Ap Bac in the Mekong Delta becomes a rupture point in the war. US-backed South Vietnamese force attempt to trap Viet Cong using helicopters and armored units. But Viet Cong already knows everything because information leaks beforehand through An. The American side walks into a prepared trap without realizing it. Helicopters are shot down, coordination collapses. The United States receives its first major shock of vulnerability. At the same time, the strategic Hamlet program is launched. Villages are turned into controlled zones surrounded by barbed wire. Movement is restricted. Life is forcibly reorganized. Every plan is documented, centralized, and systematized. N gains access to this structure. He passes weak points to the north. Those weaknesses are used against the system itself. The program collapses under its own design logic. Year 1968, Tet Offensive. A moment when the war stops, begin linear and becomes simultaneous explosion. A ceasefire is expected during the Vietnamese New Year. Instead, after midnight, attacks erupt across the country at once. More than 100 locations are hit, including Saigon. The US Embassy attack becomes symbolic. About 19 Viet Cong fighters breach the wall around 2:45 at night and enter the compound. Hours of fighting follow. 5 American personnel are killed. All attackers are killed. Lots of American soldiers are wounded. Militarily, the United States holds its positions. Psychologically, it loses control of the narrative of victory. The American public realizes something fundamental: this war is not under control. Pham Xuan An operates differently from traditional spies. He uses open source intelligence before the term existed. He reads public information as if it contains hidden structure. He builds human networks instead of relying on technology. He creates trust links between journalists, soldiers, and diplomats. He compresses documents into microfilm for mobility. He hides materials inside ordinary objects. He avoids direct communication through courier systems. He survives through behavioral camouflage, moving unnoticed inside systems designed to detect him. His closest friend was a dog of the same breed used by American forces. He stored documents inside its kennel for delivery to communist guerrillas. Sometimes he slept inside that kennel himself, absorbing the smell of the dog. This was not symbolism. It was operational concealment against detection systems. Year 1975, Saigon collapses into chaos and exists in a contradiction. He contributed to the North Vietnamese victory. At the same time, he lived embedded within South Vietnamese society. He assists in evacuating some American and South Vietnamese friends. If his identity had been exposed, survival would not have been possible. After the war, he is officially honored. He receives the rank of Brigadier General, but freedom doesn't follow. His life becomes controlled, monitored, and contained. The exact structure of this isolation is not fully documented. Three elements remain in archives: indirect access to the circle of US Commander William Westmoreland, a central position in the Saigon journalist network, and confirmed post-war interrogations. But full operational detail is missing from official records. At the end of his life, Pham Xuan An states his only goal was independence for his country. This is not betrayal narrative. This is not a hero narrative either. This is a long-term intelligence system operating inside a collapsing war machine. Because sometimes war is not decided on battlefields. It is decided inside a single mind that no system can fully see.